welcome back to another thrilling installment of Fraggoth Reads. I'm Fraggoth, and today we're going to read some more Cyteen by CJ Cherryh. There it goes, clickety-clack. So previously on, lots happened. So let's see, the biggie is Ari winds up confronting Dennis and kind of jumping the idea of making a PR, a parental replicate, indeed a more exact replicate, much like herself, an actual personality clone, of Giraud, who's dying, forcing him to confront the fact that his brother, Giraud, is dying, which hits him very, very hard. He's not taking it well. Anyway, in and amongst all this manipulation and setting the stage to do a takeover of her own, Justin decides to force an issue during New Year's by saying, "Hey," very publicly, "may I have this dance?" And basically this causes a minor freak out with everyone, but a very definite freak out with the Nyes, who are not thrilled at all. Giraud Nye winds up writing her, because he's out in Novgorod at this point, and is like, "Hey, yeah, I'm dying. You are not ready at all for taking control. You may think you are, but you're not. I suspect you probably have opened up base 1's functionality so that you can see everything everyone is doing, but even then, you're not ready. Somebody has been communicating with Jordan Warrick up at Planys. Information is getting out. We don't know who, we don't know how, we don't know what the goal is, but you should be worried about that. And because you're hanging out with Justin, his son, you should be worried about that too." Now, she knows things that he doesn't. Namely that Justin couldn't actively hurt her even if he wanted to, which he doesn't and can't. He ain't built that way. But beyond that, he does, kind of lay it out. I don't remember if we, the audience, know what's going on with Jordan at this point, so I won't say anything there. There was some other... Oh yeah, he basically after she confronts Justin afterwards, and is like, "What the hell was that all about?" He's like, "I needed to see if you were going to back me, and to ensure, because I know you're the rising star. I want to get in under your aegis as early as possible." And she's like, "Well, okay. Do you have any idea how awkward a position this puts me in? Because now I have to really move up my timetable." He's like, and then she's like, "Okay, well, I'm going to move you and Grant into my apartment complex somewhere, because it's the safest place I can put you, so that Reseune Security, which incidentally is headed by Giraud, won't be able to get at you and have you myrtleated. So we're going to do that." And Justin's like, "Well, I'm glad I didn't have to use my backup plan." And she's like, "What's that?" And he's like, "Well, I was going to ask you to sleep with me." And she's like, buddy. Buddy. You're making this hard, man. You're making this so tough. Anyway, it also kind of reaffirms what Ari Sr. has been telling her, and she is kind of got in her head already, is if you give someone power, if you allow someone power, they will be compelled to use it. For what it's worth, I'm not always sure I agree with that premise, but in the context of this book, it's certainly true enough. Anyway, which basically is Ari Sr. saying, "Hey, you've got to kind of rule with a bit of an iron fist, but you can manipulate people into doing things, and you can put them into a position where they have to do what you want because it's for their best interests and it benefits you too." Which is, we also kind of learn more about the just the whole situation vis-a-vis Jordan into Justin into Justin being like this integral part of what Ari Senior was going for with her macro sets that she's working on. We'll learn a bit more about that as time goes on, although we are running out of time in this volume. Let us see here. So I am... Trust and believe I really wanted to just bang the whole rest of the book out today, but I just don't think I'm going to be able to do it. Because again, there's like 70-something pages and the text is dense. How many pages at the end are bum pages? Only 2. Okay, well... we tried. Let me find a convenient in and betwixt point here. A mid-chapter. I think she did that with, what's it called? Down below station as well, although I can't remember off the top of my head. Yeah, that'll do. It's about... Today's will be a little shorter than the next one, but not by a heck of a lot. Let me slide in one of these. I had another bookmark around, but it is missing. That's okay. Alrighty. There was something else that was salient, but I can't remember what it was. Oh, well, I have the schedule for next week. I'll get that posted on the Discord right when we finish this. So far, I haven't gotten any additional love notes about things getting nixed from the channel, which is good. And of course the sirens start just as I'm ready to get underway here. Just double check the channel and make sure. Nope, nothing. If people could stop burning their houses down for 5 bloody minutes... Anyway. Yes, I should probably close my window. But I like the fresh air. I'll give it one more fire truck incident, and then I'll close it. How about that? Alrighty. It's how you know this is real, live, and uncut. It's how you know I'm not some poser. It's how you know that I'm not an AI, because they're not gonna insert that shit. Because where's the utility in that? It's because my reading is fire. Thank you, Derpy Shark. I appreciate that. It's good enough for me. Okay. So yeah, as before, with Death's End and what was the other one? Artemis. As with as yesterday, yesterday. Death's End and Artemis are both available on the Discord if you want them. I'm somewhat cagey in the playlist descriptions about saying whether or not I have a digital copy available for anyone. I just tell people to go onto the Discord for more information if they're interested. Which maybe I should put something like, and maybe a zip file. I don't know. Maybe that's too obvious. Anyway. With that out of the way, let's get rocking and rolling. A lot is going to happen this week and next. This installment and next. I'm so in the groove of, and I realize this is more ado, I'm so in the groove of doing a given book only once a week instead of one after another sequentially. That's been a tough adjustment, actually. I've had like 5 years of verbal muscle memory on that regard. Alrighty, let's get rockin'. Archives. Rubin Project. Classified Class AA. Do not copy. Content. Computer transcript file number 1655646. Sequence number 5. Personal archive. Emery 1/Emery 2. Actually, I should say Emery the First, Emery the Second. They are Roman numerals after all. Too late now. 2424, February 3rd, 2223. B1. Ari Sr. has a message. Stand by. Ari, this is Ari Sr. You've asked about power. That's a magic word, sweet. Are you alone? AE2. Yes. B1. You are 18 years old. You are legally adult. You have the authority of Wing Supervisor, Alpha Supervisor. You have flagged for system surveillance. Dennis Nye, Giraud Nye, Petros Ivanov, Yanni Schwartz, Wendell Peterson, John Edwards, Justin Warrick, Jordan Warrick, Gustav Morley, Julia Carnath, Amy Carnath, Maddie Strassen, Victoria Strassen, Sam Whiteley, Steph Dietrich, Evgenia Wojtkowski, Anastasia Ramirez, Eva Whiteley, Julia Strassen, Gloria Strassen, Oliver AOX Strassen, and all their associates. Additionally, you have flagged for exterior surveillance and news service monitoring Priority 1, Mikhail Korain, Vladislav Khalid, Simone Jacques, Giraud Nye, Leonid Gorodin, James Lynch, Thomas Sperlin, Ludmila DeFranco, Catherine Lau, Nasir Harad, Andrew McCabe, and all their households. Do you wish to add or subtract? AE2. Continue. B1. Ari, this is Ari Sr. You are monitoring inside and outside Reseune. You hold economic and administrative power inside Reseune with a rating of excellent performance. I advise against any move against administration on the grounds of chronological age. News scan profile indicates no security anomaly within Reseune's internal surveillance. Do you disagree? AE2. No. B1. You've asked about power. There are 3 parts to that. Taking it, holding it, using it. Taking it and holding it are very closely related. If you pay less attention to the second than to the first, you are in trouble, because the same dynamics that put you in power will operate as well for someone else against you. Let me tell you, physical force will only work on lower levels. Don't discount it. But the most effective way to power is through persuasion. This means psych, personally applied and massively applied. If you have followed my work thus far, you understand when I say that the press is one of the most valuable tools you will have to work with. There are at least 3 possible situations with the press. A. Completely free. B. Free in some areas, controlled in others. C. Completely controlled. In the first instance, the press is vulnerable to direct manipulation. In the second, vulnerable to direct manipulation in some areas, but vulnerable to tactics which increase public distrust of official information. In the third state, rumor is potentially more powerful than the press, and with an efficient organization you can equally well turn that situation to your advantage. Which of the 3 do you estimate is the case? AE2. The second. B1. Analysis indicates a period of unrest. Intersection of data indicates reason for concern. Your news scan profile is low activity, predominantly favorable. Consider carefully the effects of a change in this profile at this time. Always respect the power of public opinion. Need I say that to a Reseune-trained operator? Remember that change in social macrosystems operates rarely like earthquake, more frequently like subsoil ice, deforming the terrain in general ways by gravity and topological constraints. The potential for cataclysmic events is comparatively easy to figure. Picturing the precise moment or trigger of fracture is not. While the temporal component is
While the temporal component in slow change is relatively easy to figure, the total direction of change is complex, involving more individual action. Politicians frequently ride the earthquakes, while Reseune has always operated best in the subsoil, slowly, with frequent small adjustments. I distrust such models, but I trust I am giving them to an adult who understands me. I urge you to consider the changes in Novgorod and in Cyteen in your own lifetime, and in mine, and in Olga's. I predict they will be extreme, and I urge you watch several areas. A. An early problem will be the pressure of CIT population increase, particularly in Novgorod, particularly on stations such as Esperance and Pan-Paris, which do not lie on the routes of proposed expansion. Eventually, CITs will find that jobs are not as easy to come by, and that will lead to increased power for abolitionists who call for the cessation of ASI production. B. Interstellar government having its capital resident in a world-based city is increasingly fraught with problems, however much the situation has been advantageous to Reseune. It may in your lifetime produce difficulties and threaten union. Placing the capital specifically at Novgorod instead of Cyteen Station exposed Cyteen politics to Union influence. Whoops. Exposed Union politics. Damn it. Let's try that again, RE2. It may in your lifetime produce difficulties and threaten union. Placing the capital specifically at Novgorod instead of Cyteen Station exposed Union politics to Cyteen influence and to Cyteen economics in ways which I do not think healthy. Be alert for that sentiment. It will come, though perhaps not in your lifetime. It is possible in the future that for reasons presently unforeseen, Novgorod may diminish in power and influence within Cyteen and consequently pose less problem, but I doubt it. Geography favors it, and the presence of Union government fattens it. I foresee it clinging to the government by every means possible, including dirty politics and gerrymandering which would threaten Union. Particularly beware the intersection of A and B, or B and C. C. The discovery that Reseune has tampered with social dynamics at Gehenna and elsewhere could create widespread panic and distrust of Reseune's influence. D. The mere potential for Earth's further intervention in alliance affairs or outside human space acts as a destabilizing force in alliance-union relations. An actual or perceived threat from that quarter could worsen relations. E. The opportunity for major gains by political opposition during the interregnum of your guardians, and the death and defeat of various of my own allies in the interim, will likely affect the rise of major new political forces, some of whom may well be radically abolitionist. I predict that within a decade or so of my death, Mikhail Korein will be viewed as too moderate to control his own allies, and it is foreseeable that a more radical figure will unseat him, possibly changing the centrists considerably. Particularly look to the effects of your own emergence into public life. I had enemies. You will face opposition which may have superstitious roots, in fear of the unknown, in fear of you as a political force, and in fear of what the science which brought you into being could mean to a society only recently adapting to rejuve. Uncertainty of any sort creates demagogues. F. A major new discovery of non-human intelligence might destabilize the situation I left, and might come at any time. I urge you press for expansion in safe areas, and for necessary precaution against hostile contact. We do not know our time limits, and we are scarcely stable enough in my time to deal with that eventuality. G. There may be major divergences from my policies inside Reseune, and there exists the chance that you have either made personal enemies on staff, or that you are perceived as standing for policies others oppose. H. A major breakdown could occur within a designed ASI population, or there may be major difficulties in CIT ASI integrations within a given population. I hope this does not come to pass, but my best estimate of a problem area would be in Paris, where economic constraints and military retirees may pose hardships. Next, most likely, Novgorod, in the third generation, where the old rebel ethos of the founders of Union may well find difficulty mixing with the constitution-venerating descendants of the wartime worker Azzi, and where population pressures and Cyteen's ability to terraform new habitat on that site may run a narrow race indeed. I hope time has proven me wrong in some of these things, but I urge you to study these situations and to prepare responses to them before you make any move on your own. Avoid precipitate action. By this I mean don't be too quick to take what you're not ready for. Don't be so late that you have to move hastily and without adequate groundwork. Power of any kind lays heavy responsibility on you, and it changes your friends as it changes the way your friends regard you. Do not be naive in this regard. Do not assume. Do not overburden your friends with too much trust. Above all, remember what I said in the beginning. Respect the power of public opinion. NewsScan shows mention of you 3 articles in last 3 months. Mention of Giraud Nye 189 articles in last 3 months. Mention of Mikhail Korain 276 articles in last 3 months. Mention of Reseune 597 articles in last 3 months. Mention of Paxers 1,058 articles in last 3 months. Continue. AE2. Base 1. Give me nature, location, and time of Ari Senior's last entry into the house system. B1. Working. Entry by translate 1004A 2404 10/22 1808. AE2. Give me the location and time of Ari Senior's death. B1. Working. 1004A. Autopsy ruling. 2404, October 22nd, 1800 to 1830 approximate. AE2. 1004A is the code lab in Wing 1 basement, correct? B1. Correct. AE2. Who else had access to this information? B1. No prior access. AE2. Replay entry. B1. Working. Order. Security 10. Comm interrupt. Jordan Warrick. All outgoing calls. Claim malfunction. Order good until cancelled. AE2. Base 1. Is that the last entry from Ari from any source? B1. Working. Affirmative. AE2. Base 1. At what time did Jordan Warrick enter Wing 1 basement security door on October 22nd, 2404? B1. Working. Wing 1 basement security door coded 14. Jordan Warrick's key accessed D14 at 17:43 hours, that date. AE2. Departure, same visit? B1. 1808 hours, that date. Duration of visit, 25 minutes. AE2. Record current session to personal archive. Give me the full transcript. Autopsy, Ariane Emery. All records, Jordan Warrick. Keyword, Emery. Keyword, trial. Keyword, murder. Keyword, hearings. Keyword, counsel. Keyword, investigation. There's a bunch of colons and semicolons in and amongst to indicate when she switched to topic that needs a keyword. I can read that all out for you, because why not? AE2, record current session to personal archive, period. Give me the full transcript, comma, autopsy, comma, Ariane Emery, semicolon. All records, comma, Jordan Warrick, comma, keyword, colon, Emery, comma, keyword, colon, trial, semicolon. Keyword, colon, murder, semicolon. Keyword, comma, hearings, semicolon. Keyword, colon, counsel, semicolon. Keyword, colon, investigation, period. Chapter 14. 1. The first bill on the agenda is number 6789. Really? For the Bureau of Trade, Nasir Harad said. Ludmilla DeFranco, Simone Jacques co-sponsors, proposing restructuring of the Pan-Paris credit system. Call for debate. Citizens, Mikhail Corain said, lifting his hand. For the bill. For the bill. Finance, Chavez said. For the bill. Move to forego debate, Harogo said, in the absence of opposition. Corain cast a look down the table toward Nye, who had reached for his water glass. It was a bargain, the time-saving sort. The acquiescence of the expansionists in the move designed to take pressure off the ailing Pan-Paris central bank, the promise of military contracts, the private assurance that Reseune would grant more time on the considerable sum Pan-Paris owned. Of course it would. Pan-Paris was Lao's central constituency. Jeez Louise. Of course it would. Pan-Paris was Lao's central constituency, and the bill was the first step in a long-proposed settlement on the Wyatt's Paradise Pan-Paris loop that called for a fusion-powered station at Maron Point, where there was only dark mass, but enough to pull a ship in. There were 4 bills lined up, expansionists falling all over themselves after decades of opposition, finally diverting funds from the slow construction of hope to the more immediate difficulties of home space and a trade loop that had gotten, since the war, damnably short of exportable commodities. Major construction, finally, beyond the rebuilding of stations damaged in Azov's desperate push in the last stages of the war, beyond the endless restructurings of debt and adjustments necessary when the merchanters associated into alliance and left Union banks holding enormous debt. 70 years later, a policy shift to save that trade loop became possible only because the special interests that had blocked it suddenly discovered there was nothing left to do. Move to suspend debate, Harad said in his usual mutter. Move to suspend debate. Move to suspend debate, Harad said in his usual mutter. Second? Second, Corain said. Call for the vote. A clatter from down the table. Nye had knocked the water glass over his papers and sat there, with the water running across his notes, in a frozen pose that at first seemed incongruous, as if he were listening for something. Then Corain's heart ticked over a beat, a moment of alarm as he saw the imminent collapse, as Lao, next to Nye, rose in an attempt to hold him, as of a sudden everyone was moving, including the aides. But Giraud Nye was slumping down onto the papers, sliding from his chair, completely limp, as the Azi Aban shoved Lao aside and caught Nye in his fall between the seats. The council, the aides, everyone broke into tumult, and Corain's heart was hammering. Get medical, he ordered De La Rosa, ordered whoever would go, while Aban had Nye on the floor, his collar open, applying CPR with methodical precision. It was quiet then, except the aides, slipping from the chamber. Strange that no one moved, everyone seemed in a state of shock, except a junior aide offering to spell the Azi. Medical arrived, running steps, a clattering and banging of hand-carried equipment, counselors and aides clearing back in haste to let the professionals through, then waiting while more medics got a portable gurney through, and the working team and Aban, clustered about Nye, lifted him and lifted the gurney up. Alive, Corain thought, shaken. He could not understand his own reaction, or why he was trembling when Nasir Harad, still standing, brought the gavel down on chairman's discretion for an emergency recess. No one moved to leave for a moment. Centrists and expansionists looked at each other in a kind of vague, human shock for about 100 heartbeats. Then Simone Jacques gathered up his papers, and others did, and Corain signaled to his own remaining aides. After that, it was a withdrawal, increasingly precipitate, to reassess, to find out in decent discretion how serious it was, whether Nye was expected to recover from this one. Or not. In which case, nothing was the same. Two. Collapsed in the council chamber, the public address said throughout Reseune, and people stopped where they were, at their desks, in the halls, waiting. And Justin stood, with his arms full of printout from the latest run on sociology, with that vague, cold feeling about his heart that said that, whatever Giraud was to him personally, there was far worse. He is stabilized in the emergency care unit in the Hall of State and is presently in transit via air ambulance to the intensive care unit in Mary Stamford Hospital in Novgorod. There was early consideration of transfer to Reseune's medical facilities, but the available aircraft did not have the necessary equipment. His companion Aban was with him at the time of the collapse and remains with him in transit. Secretary Lynch has been informed and has taken the oath as interim proxy for emergency business. Administrator Nye requests that expressions of concern and inquiries regarding his brother's condition be directed to the desk at Reseune Hospital, which is in current contact with Stamford in Novgorod, and that no inquiries be made directly to Novgorod. Reseune staff is urged to continue with ordinary schedules. Bulletins will be issued as information becomes available. "Damn," someone said on the other side of the room. "Here it goes, doesn't it?" Justin took his printout and left, out into the hall beyond the glass partitions, where people lingered to talk in small groups. He felt stares at his back, felt himself the object of attention he did not want. Felt as if the ground had shifted underfoot, even if they had known this was coming. "It's the slow preparation," a tech said in his hearing. "He may already be dead. They won't admit it, till the Bureau has the proxy settled. They can't admit anything till then." It was a dreadful thing to go to Dennis now, but a call on the minder was too cold and too remote, and Ari faced the apartment door and identified herself to the minder, with Florian and Catelyn at her back, and nothing to protect her from the insecurity in front of her, an old man's impending bereavement, an old man facing a solitude he had never, Giraud himself had said it, never been able to come to grips with. If Dennis cried, she thought, if Dennis broke down in front of her, he would be terribly ashamed, and angry with her. But she was all the close family he had left, who did not want to be here, who did not want, today, to be adult and responsible, in the face of the mistake this visit could turn out to be. But she had, she thought, to try. "Uncle Dennis," she said, "it's Ari. Do you want company?" A small delay. The door opened suddenly, and she was facing Seely. "Sarah," Seely murmured, "come in." The apartment was so small, so simple next to her own. Dennis could always have had a larger one, could have had, in his long tenure, any luxury he wanted. But it felt like home, in a nostalgic wrench that saw her suddenly a too-old stranger, and Florian and Catelyn entering with her, grown up and strange to the scale of this place. The little living room, the dining area, the suite off to the right that had been hers and theirs and Nellie's. The hall to the left that held Dennis's office and bedroom, and Seely's Spartan quarters. She looked that direction as Dennis came out of his office, pale and drawn, looking bewildered as he saw her. "Uncle Dennis," she said gently. "You got the news," Dennis said. She nodded, and felt her way through it. Herself, whom Union credited for genius in dealing with emotional contexts, in setting up and tearing down and reshaping human reactions. But it was so damned different when the emotional context went all the way down to one's roots. Redirect, that was the only thing she could logic her way to. Redirect and refocus. Grief is a self-focused function, and the flux holds so damn much guilt about taking care of ourselves. Are you all right, Uncle Dennis? Dennis drew a breath, and several others, and looked desperate for a moment. Then he firmed up his chin and said, "He's dying, Ari." She came and put her arms around Dennis, self-conscious. God, guilty. Of calculation. Of too much expertise. Of being cold inside when she patted him on the shoulder and freed herself from him and said, "Seely, has Uncle Dennis still got that brandy?" "Yes," Seely said. "I have work to do," Dennis said. "The brandy won't hurt," she said. "Seely." Seely went, and she hooked her arm in Dennis's and took him as far as the dining table where he usually did his work. "There's nothing you can do by worrying," she said. "There's nothing anyone can do by worrying. Giraud knew this was coming. Listen, you know what he's done. You know the way he's arranged things. What he'll want you to do—" "I damned well can't do," Dennis snapped, and slammed his hand down on the table. "I don't intend to discuss it. Lynch will sit proxy. Giraud may recover from this. Let's not hold the funeral yet, do you mind?" "Certainly I hope not. He's not facing this. He's not accepting it." Seely, thank God, arrived with the brandy, while Florian and Catelyn hovered near the door, gone invisible as they could. She took her own glass, drank a little, and Dennis drank, more than a little, and gave a long shudder. "I can't go to Novgorod," Dennis said. There was a marked fragility about the set of his mouth, a sweating pallor about his skin despite the cool air in the room. "You know that." You can do what you put your mind to, Uncle Dennis, but it's not time to talk about that kind of thing." "I can't," Dennis said, cradling the glass in his hand. "I've told Giraud that. He knows it. Take tape, he says. He knows damn well I'm not suited to holding office." "It's not a question of that right now." "He's dying, damn it. You know it, and I know it. And his notions about my going to Novgorod, damn it, he knows better." "You'd be very good." "Don't be ridiculous. A public speaker, an orator, someone to handle press conferences. There's no one less suited than I am to holding public office. Behind the scenes, yes, I'm quite good. But I'm much too old to make major changes. I'm not a public man, Ari. I'm not going to be. There's no tape fix for age. There's no damn tape fix to make me a speech maker." "Giraud isn't exactly skilled at it, but he's a fine counsellor." "Do you know," Dennis said, "when I came down to the Ag unit that time, that was the first time since I was 9 that I'd ever left these walls." "My God, Uncle Dennis." Didn't add that up? Shame on you. I came down to see my foster niece risk her lovely neck, the way I watched from the airport remotes when your predecessor would come screaming in that damned jet. I hate disasters. I've always expected them. It's my one act of courage, you understand. Don't expect me to handle press conferences." Dennis shook his head and leaned on his elbows on the table. "Young people. They risk their lives so damned lightly, and they know so little what they're worth." He wept then, a little convulsion of shoulders and face, and Ari picked up the decanter and poured him more, that being the only effective kindness she could think of. She said nothing for perhaps a quarter, perhaps half an hour, only sat there while Dennis emptied another glass. Then the minder said, "Message, Aban AA to Base 2, Special Communications." Dennis did not answer at once. Then he said, "Report." "Sir Dennis," Aban's voice said, cold with distance and the minder's reproduction, "Giraud has just died. I'll see to his transport home by his orders. He requested you merge his base." Dennis lowered his head onto his hand. "Aban," Seely said. "This is Seely, S.A. Thank you. Sir, thanks you. Direct details to me. I'll assist." Ari sat there a very long time, waiting, until Dennis wiped his eyes and drew a shaken breath. "Lynch," Dennis said. "Someone has to notify Lynch. Tell Aban to see to that. He's to stand proxy. He's to file for election. Immediately. Three. The family filed into the east garden by twos and threes, wearing coats and cloaks in the sharpness of an autumn noon. With conspicuous absences which made Ari doubly conscious of her position in the forefront of the family. 18, immaculate in mourning, and correct as she knew how to be, wearing the topaz pin on her collar, the pin Giraud had given her. Something that's only yours. The funeral was another of those duties she would have avoided if she could have found a way. Because Dennis had made a damnable mess of things. Dennis had fallen to pieces, refused the appointment as proxy counselor of science, and refused to attend the funeral. Dennis was over at the old Wing 1 lab, supervising the retrieval and implantation of CIT genset 684-044-5567, precisely at this hour, at which Ari, even with compassion for his reasons, felt a vague shudder of disgust. It left her, foster niece, as nearest kin, not even directly related to Giraud, but ranking as immediate family, over Emil Carnath Nye and Julia Carnath Nye and Amy. She felt uncomfortable in that role, even knowing Julia's attachment to Giraud was more ambition than accident of blood. Hell with Julia. There was prestige involved. She hated to move Amy out of her proper place, and that was the uncomfortable part. The Carnath Nyes stood, an ill-assorted little association of blood ties far from cordial these days. Amy bringing Quentin as she had brought Florian and Catelyn for personal security in troubled times, not to flaunt him in front of the family and her mother's disapproval. But that was certainly not the way Julia Carnath took it. Julia and her father Emile resented having Aban standing beside them, and took petty exception to the man, damn it, who had been closer to Giraud in many ways than any next of kin, even Dennis, who had held Giraud's hand while he died and taken care of notifications with quiet efficiency when no family were there to do anything. That attitude was damned well going to go. She had served notice of it and scandalized the old hands before now. Let them know what she would do when she held power in the house. Hell with their offended feelings. Amy was there. Maddie Strassen was in the front row, with Aunt Victoria, Maman's sister, and at 154, one of the oldest people alive anywhere who was not a spacer. Rejuve did not seem near failing Victoria Strassen. She was wearing away instead like ice in sunlight, just thinner and more fragile with every passing year, until she began to seem more force than flesh. Using a cane now, the sight afflicted Ari to the heart. Mamma would be that old now. Mamma would be that frail. That frail. She avoided Victoria, not alone because Victoria hated her and blamed her for Julia Strassen's exile to Fargon. The Whiteley clan was there, Sam and his mother, and the Ivanovs, the Edwardses, Yanni Schwartz and Sully, and the Dietrichs. Justin and Grant were not. Justin had sent, all things considered, a very gracious refusal, and let her off one very difficult position. It was the only mercy she had gotten from family or outsiders. Reporters clustered down at the airport press area, a half hour down there this morning, an appointment for an interview this afternoon, 100 frustrated requests for an interview with Dennis. I'm sorry, she had said, privately and on camera. Even those of us who work lifelong with psychs, Cherryh, do feel personal grief. Coldly, precisely, letting her own distress far enough to the surface to put what Giraud would call the human face on Reseune. My Uncle Dennis was extremely close to his brother, and he's not young himself. He's resigning the proxy to Secretary Lynch after health considerations. No, absolutely not. Reseune has never considered it has a monopoly on the science seat. As the oldest scientific institution on Cyteen, we have contributions to make, and I'm sure there will be other candidates from Reseune, but no one in Reseune, so far as I know, intends to run. After all, Dr. Nye wasn't bound to appoint Secretary Lynch. After all, Dr. Nye wasn't bound to appoint Secretary Lynch. He might have appointed anyone in science. Secretary Lynch is a very respected, very qualified head of the Bureau in his own right. And to a series of insistent questions. Cherryh, Dr. Yanni Schwartz, the head of Wing 1 in Reseune, will be answering any specific questions about that. No, Cherryh, that would be in the future. Of course, my predecessor held the seat. Presently, I'm a wing supervisor in research. I do have a staff. I have projects under my administration. Every reporter in the room had focused in on that, sharp and hard, scenting a story that was far off their present, urgent assignment. She had thrown out the deliberate lure, and they burned to go for it, despite the fact that they were going out live feed, with solemn and specific lead-ins and funeral music. She handed them the hint of a story they could not, with propriety, go for, and kept any hint of deliberate signal off her face when she did it. But they had gone for it the moment they were off live feed. To what extent was she actually in administration? What were the projects? How were the decisions being made inside Reseune, and was she in fact involved in that level? Dangerous questions. Exceedingly dangerous. She had flashed then on bleeding bodies, on subway wreckage, on news service stills of a child's toy in the debris. Cherryh, she had said then, direct, not demure, with Ari Sr.'s straight stare and deliberate pause in answering, any wing administrator is in the process. Read me, Cherryh. I'm not a fool. I won't declare myself over my uncle's ashes. But don't discount me in the future. I came here, she had reminded them in that context, as a delegated spokesman for the family. That's my immediate concern. I have to go, Cherryh. I have to be up for the kill. Oh, that is hill, that is an H. I have to go, Cherryh. I have to be up the hill for the services in 30 minutes. Please excuse me. It was the first funeral she had attended where there was actually burial, a small canister of ash to place in the ground, and 2 strong gardeners to raise the basalt cenotaph up from the ground and settle it with a final thump over the grave. Basalt, whatever. She flinched at that sound, inside. So damned little a canister for tall Uncle Giraud. And burial in earth instead of being shot for the sun. She knew which she would pick for herself. Same as her predecessor, same as Mama. But it was right for Giraud, maybe. Emil Carnath called for speeches from associates and colleagues.
I have a word,
Victoria Strassen said right off. Oh, God, Ari thought, and braced herself.
Giraud threw me out of my sister's funeral.
Victoria began in a voice sharper and stronger than one ever looked for from that thin body.
I never forgave him for it.
Maddie cast at Ari an anguished look across the front of the gathering. Sorry for this. Not your fault, Ari thought.
What about you, Ariane Emery, PR? Are you going to have me thrown out for saying what the truth is?
I'll speak after you, Aunt Victoria. Mamma taught me manners. That hit. Victoria's lips made a thin line, and she took a double-handed grip on her black cane.
My sister was not your Mama. Maman,
Victoria said.
That's the trouble in the house. Dead is dead, that's all. The way it works best. The way it's worked in all of human society. Old growth makes way for new. It doesn't batten off the damn corpse. I've no quarrel with you, young Cherryh, no quarrel with you. You didn't choose to be born. Where's Dennis, eh?
She looked around her with a sweeping gesture of the cane.
Where's Dennis?
There was an uncomfortable shifting in the crowd. Cherryh, Florian whispered at Ari's shoulder, seeking instruction.
I'll tell you where Dennis is,
Victoria snapped.
Dennis is in the lab making another brother, the way he made another Ariane. Dennis has taken the greatest scientific and economic power in human history and damn near run it into bankruptcy in his administration. Never mind poor Giraud, who took the orders, we all know that. Damn near bankrupted all sorts. Skexes! Damn near bankrupted us all for his E.T. notion of personal immortality. You tell me, young sirrah, do you remember what Ariane remembered? Do you remember her life at all?
God. It was certainly not something she wanted asked here, now, in an argumentative challenge in any metaphysical context. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that someday, she said back, loudly enough to carry. Over a drink, Aunt Victoria. I take it that's a scientific question, and you're not asking me about reincarnation.
I wonder what Dennis calls it, Victoria said. Call your security if you like. I've been through enough craziness in my life, people blowing up stations in the war, people blowing up kids in subways, people who aren't content to let nature throw the dice anymore, people who don't want kids, they want little personal faxes they can live their fantasies through, never mind what the poor kid wants. Now do we give up on funerals altogether? Is that what everyone in the damn house is thinking? I don't have to die. I can impose my own ideas on a poor sod of a replicant who's got no say in it, so I can have my ideas walking around in the world after I'm dead?
You're here to talk about Giraud. You're here to talk about Giraud, Yeti Schwartz yelled. Do it and shut up, Vicky.
I've done it. Goodbye to a human being. Welcome back, Jerry PR. God help the human race. Ahem.
The rest of the speeches, thank God, were decorous. A few lines, we differed, but he had principles. We differed, but he had principles, from Petros Ivanov. He kept Reseune going, from Wendell Peterson. It ascended to personal family, then, always last to speak. To refute the rest, Ari decided, for good or ill. I'll tell you, she said in her own turn, in what was conspicuously her turn, last, as next of kin, Dennis being exactly where Victoria had said he was, doing what Victoria had said. There was a time I hated my uncle. I think he knew that. But in the last few years I learned a lot about him. He collected holograms and miniatures. He loved microcosms and tame, quiet things. I think because in his real work there was never any sense of conclusion, just an ongoing flux and decisions nobody else wanted to make. It's not true that he only took orders. He consulted with Dennis on policy. He implemented bureau decisions. But he knew the difference between a good idea and a bad one, and he never hesitated to support his own ideas. He was quiet about it, that's all. He got the gist of a problem and he went for solutions that would work. He served Union in the war effort. He did major work on human personality and on memory, which is still the standard reference work in his field. He took over the council seat in the middle of a national crisis, and he represented the interests of the Bureau for 2 very critical decades. Into my generation, the first generation of Union that's not directly in touch with either the founding or the war. He talked to me a lot in this last year. Aban made a lot of trips back and forth. She looked to catch Aban's eye, but Aban was staring straight forward, in that nowhere way of an Azzy in pain, couriering messages between us. He knew quite well he was dying, of course, and as far as having a replicate, he really didn't care that much. We did talk about it, the way we talked about a lot of things, some personal, some public. He was very calm about it all. He was concerned about his brother. The thing that impressed me most was how he laid everything out, how he made clear arrangements for everything. Never mind the mess Dennis made of those arrangements. He operated during the last half-year with a slate so clearly in order that those of us he was briefing could have walked into his office, picked up that agenda, and known exactly where all the files were and exactly what had to be priority. He confessed he was afraid of dying. He certainly would have been glad to stay around another 50 years. He never expressed remorse for anything he'd done. He never asked my forgiveness. He only handed me the keys and the files and seemed touched that I did forgive him. That was the Giraud I knew. She left it at that. I have the files. That was deliberate, too. The way she had done with the press. Not to undermine Lynch, damned sure. Dennis refused the seat, and someone had to hold it. Reseune was in profound shock. Certain people were urging Yanni to declare for the seat, challenge Lynch. No, Dennis had said, focused enough to foresee that possibility. No challenge to Lynch from anyone. He's harmless. Leave him. What Yanni thought about it, she was not sure. She did not think Yanni wanted that honor. But Dennis's refusal had jerked a chance at Reseune administration out of Yanni's reach. And that, she thought, however much any of them in Reseune had suspected Dennis would refuse the seat, that had to be a disappointment. She made a point of going over to Yanni after the services, catching his arm, thanking him for his support, and making sure the whole family saw that. Making sure that the whole family knew Yanni was not out of the running in future, in her time. I know what you're doing, she said fervently, careless of just who could hear, knowing some would. Yanni, I won't forget. Here? She squeezed his hand. Yanni gave her a look, as if he had not believed for a second it was more than a salve to his pride, and then caught on that it was altogether more than that, in that subtle way such indicators passed in the family. Not a word said directly, but there were witnesses enough, and Yanni was profoundly affected. Hers, she reckoned, when it came down to the line, in the same way Amy and Maddie and the younger generation were. And others in the house would see the indicators plain, that she had declared herself on several fronts and started making acquisitions, not on a spoils system for the young and upcoming, but for a passed-over senior administrator who enjoyed more respect in the house than he himself imagined. Signal clearly that Yanni was hers, and let Yanni collect his own following. Yanni took no nonsense and let himself be taken in by no one. Yanni had stripped his own daughter of authority when she had abused it, and favored no one except on merit. That was his reputation, when Yanni thought of himself as a simple, hard-nosed bastard. Yanni had some reassessing to do. Figure on that. Yanni was not going to be taken in by the bootlickers and the Steph Dietrichs in the house or elsewhere. He had been one of Maman's friends. She thought with some personal satisfaction that Mama would approve. She took the outside walk back to the house, around the garden wall, toward the distant doors. It was, thank God, quiet, after the pressure of the interviews. Damn Victoria, she thought, and reckoned that Maddie had wanted to sink out of sight. Do you wonder why we do such things? She murmured to Florian and Catelyn. So do I. They looked at her, one and the other. Catelyn said, in Florian's silence, It's strange when someone dies. You think they ought to be there. It was that way in Green Barracks. Ari put her hand on Catelyn's shoulder as they walked. Memories. Catelyn was the one who had seen people die. Not slowing down, are you? No, sirrah, Catelyn said. I don't intend to be talked about. She laughed softly. Count on Catelyn. Florian said nothing at all. Florian was the one who would have taken in every signal in the crowd, and work over it to make it make sense. Florian was the one who would worry about the living. He's gone, Ari said finally, at the doors. Damn, that is strange. And looked at Florian, whose face had just gone quite tense, that listening mode that said he was getting something attention-getting over the security monitor. One or the other of them was always online. Novgorod, Florian said. Jordan Warrick. has declared his innocence. He says he was coerced. Reseune Security is issuing orders to place him in detention. Ari's heart jolted, but everything came clear then. Florian, she said while they were going through the doors, code J red, go. We're on A, go for Q, and we're on Con 2. Make sure of Justin and Grant. Catelyn and I are going for Dennis. Get home base secure and stay there. Force permitted, but not as first resort. That, before they were through the doors, while a security guard whose comm would not be set on that command priority gave them a slightly puzzled look at their on-business split and go. They're not saying much, Catelyn said as they went. Out to the news services? Not first, Catelyn said. Comm 14 is loaded with incomings. Reporters at the airport, at the edge of a major news event and hemmed in by an anxious, non-communicative security. Damn, is Dennis on it? What in hell is he doing? Catelyn tapped the unit in her ear. Dennis is still in the lab. Base 1, relay Base 2 transmission? Affirmative, Sarah. He sent word to defer all questions. He's saying the charges are a political maneuver, quote, ill-timed and lacking in human feeling. He says, quote, the family is returning from the funeral and people are out of their offices. Reseune will have a further statement in half an hour. Thank God, she said fervently. Dennis was awake. Dennis was returning fire. Damned well about time.
Five. It was a good day to stay home, Justin reckoned, given the situation in the house, given a general unsettled state in security now that its chief was dead. I don't want to be alarmist, Ari had said in a message left on the minder, but I'd be a lot easier in my mind if you and Grant didn't go anywhere you don't have to for the next few days. Work at home if you can. I'm going to be busy. I can't watch everything, and security is confused as hell. A little power struggle going on there. Do you mind? Feel free to attend the services, but stay where people are. I'll take your advice, he had messaged back. Thank you. I know you have a lot to take care of right now. I don't think our presence at the services would be appropriate, or welcome to his friends, but if there should be anything Grant or I can do in the wing, if there should be anything Grant or I can do in the wing to take care of details, we're certainly willing to help. She had not asked anything of them, had more or less forgotten them, Justin reckoned, small wonder with the pressure she was under. The news was full of speculations about Dennis's health, about the political consequences of Reseune yielding up the seat Reseune had held on council since the founding, about whether the centrists could field a viable candidate inside science, or whether Secretary and now proxy Councillor Lynch had the personal qualifications to hold the party leadership which Giraud had held. There's nothing wrong with Dennis's health. There's nothing wrong with Dennis's health, Grant objected, the two of them watching the news in the living room. I don't know what he's about. Justin said. And trusting then to the freedom Ari swore they had from monitoring, but losing Giraud is a heavy blow to him. I think it's the only time I've ever felt sorry for Dennis. They're doing that PR, Grant said, then meaning personal replicate, not, public relations in this case, although it is a bit of both. Grant said, then, Dennis had to get Ari's backing. Isn't that ironic as hell? He's what, 120 odd? And that weight he carries doesn't favor him. He'd be lucky to see 10, 15 more years. So he has to have Ari's agreement, doesn't he? It's not going to work, Grant said. Justin looked at Grant, who sat. They had found a scattering of red and blue pillows in a nest at the corner of the couch, his red hair at odds with half of it. Dennis has to set the pattern, Grant said. Has to give him that foundation or there's no hope for Giraud. I firmly think so. Yanny may have known their father in his old age, but Yanny's much too young to do for Giraud what Jane Strassen did, not mentioning how they've treated him. He owes them damned little, that's sure enough. And there's always the question, what's in and what's not Oh, and there's always the question what's in and not in those notes Ari Younger got from her predecessor, Grant said. I think Ari knows a lot she's not putting in those notes. I think our Ari is being very careful what she tells her guardians.
Ari says sometimes, not everything was necessary.
But whatever is necessary, Grant said. And Dennis can't know. Isn't in a position to know, that's what I think, and she's keeping it that way.
The Rubin boy's going into chemistry, isn't he?
Fine student. Test score's not spectacular, though.
Yet.
Grant made a deprecating gesture. No Stella Rubin. No one to tell him when to breathe. Hell is necessary for CITs. Do we make that a given? You warned them not to let up on him too much, but the project is still using him for a control. Put the whole load on Ari. Go easy on Ben Rubin. See what was necessary. I'll bet you anything you like that Dennis Nye had more to do with that decision than Yanni Schwartz did. Yanni never went easy on anyone.
Except, Yanni's got a family attachment in the way. Rubin's suicide really got him, and Jenna Schwartz, remember, had some little thing to do with that. It could well be Yanni's going easy.
But Rubin's still a control, Grant said, and what he's proving
is, A, you can't do it with all gene sets, B, some gene sets respond well to stress and some don't.
Given, but in the two instances we have,
and C, there's a bad matchup between surrogate and subject. Don't discount the damage Jenna Schwartz did and the damage the contrast between Jenna Schwartz and Ollie Strassen did to the boy.
Not to mention, Grant said, holding up a finger, the fact that Oliver AOX is male and alpha, and Stella Rubin is female and not that bright. I'd like to do a study on young Rubin. No edge to him, not near the flux swings. The instability goes with the suicide, goes with the brilliance. Among us, you know, they call it a flawed set.
And do a fix for it.
And lose the edge just as often. Which brings us back to young Ari, who's maybe given the committee all she knows, which I don't believe if she's as much Ari as she seems, and our Ari doesn't take chances with her security. I very much think access to those programs is a leverage of sorts. And do you know, I think Dennis would have begun to guess that. Justin considered that thought, with a small involuntary twitch of his shoulders.
The committee swears no one can retrieve from Ari's programs without Ari's ID, and possibly it's always been true.
Possibly more than that. Possibly that base, once activated, can't be outmaneuvered in other senses. Possibly it's capable of masking itself.
Lying about file sizes?
And invading other bases, eventually. Built-in tests, parameters. I've been thinking how I'd write a program like that, if she were Azzy. The first Ariane designed me. Maybe... Grant made a little quirk of his mouth. Maybe I have you'd say innate, but that's a mistake, inbuilt resonance with Ari's programs. I remember my earliest integrations. I remember there was even for a child, sensual pleasure in the way things fit, the way the pieces of my understanding came together with such a precision. She was so very good. Do you think she didn't prepare for them to replicate her? Or that she'd be less careful with a child of her own sets than with an Azzy of her design? Justin thought about it. Thought about the look on Grant's face, the tone of his voice. A man speaking about his father. Or his mother.
Flux thinking, he said. I've wondered. Do you love her, Grant?
Grant laughed, fleeting surprise. Love her?
I don't think it's impossible. I don't think it's at all unlikely.
Reseune is my contract, and I can never get away from it?
Reseune is my contract. I shall not want. I'm talking about CIT-style flux. The kind that makes for ambivalences. Do you love her?
A frown, then. I'm scared of the fact this Ari ran a probe. I'm scared because Ari's got the first Ari's notes, which include my manual, I'm quite sure. And what if, this is my nightmare, Justin, what if, in my most fluxed imaginings, Ari planned for her successor? What if she planted something in me that would respond to her with the right trigger? But then I flux back again and think that's complete nonsense. I'll tell you another nightmare. I'm scared of my own program tape. Justin suffered a little sympathetic chill.
Because Ari wrote it.
Grant nodded. I don't want to review it under Trank nowadays. I know I could take enough cat to put me flat enough I could take it. But then I think I can handle things without it. I can manage. I don't need it. God, CIT's put up with the flux and they learn from it. And I do. And I do. Learn from it, that is.
I wish to hell you'd told me that.
You'd worry. And there's no reason to worry. I'm fine. Except when you ask me questions like that. Do I love Ari? God, that's skewed. That's the first time I ever wondered about it in CIT terms. And you're right. There's a multi-level flux around her I don't like at all.
Guilt?
Don't do that to me.
Sorry, I just wondered.
Grant shifted in the nest of pillows against the arm. Have you ever scanned my tape for problems?
Yes,
Justin said after a little hesitation, a time stretch of hesitation that felt much too long and much too significant.
I didn't want to make it evident. I didn't want to worry you about it.
I worry. I can't help but worry. It's too basic to me.
You worry about it.
Grant gave a small, melancholy lift of the brows, and seemed to ponder for a moment, raking a hand through his hair. I think she asked something that jolted me. Deep. I think I know where. I think she asked about my tape, which, admittedly, I have a small guilt about. I don't use it the way I'm supposed to. I think she asked about contact with subversives, and I dream about Winfield lately. The whole scene out at Big Blue. The plane, and the bus with those men, and that room.
Why didn't you tell me that?
Are dreams abnormal?
Don't give me that. Why didn't you tell me?
Because it's not significant. Because I knew, when I'm not fluxed, that I'm all right. You want me to take the tape, I'll take it. You want to run a probe of your own? Do it. I've certainly no apprehensions about that. Maybe you should. It's been a long time. Maybe I'd even feel safer if you did. If, Grant added with a little tilt of the head, a sidelong glance, a laugh without humor, if I didn't then wonder if you weren't off. You see? It's a mental trap.
Because you got a chance to see Jordan. Because the damn place is crazy!
Of a sudden, he felt a rush of frustration, an irrational concern so intense he got up and paced the length of the living room, looked back at Grant in a sudden feeling of walls closing in, of life hemmed around and impeded at every turn. Not true, he thought. Things were better. Never mind that it was another year of separation from his father, another year gone, things no different than they had ever been. Things were better in prospect. Ari was closer than she had ever been to taking power in her own right, and her regime, he sincerely believed it, promised change when it would come.
They're burying Giraud today. Why in hell does that make me afraid?
I wish, Grant said, you'd listen to me. I wish you'd gone to Planys instead.
What difference? We'd still have been separate. We'd still worry.
What then? What then? What's bothering you?
I don't know. He rubbed the back of his neck. Being pent up in here, I think. This place, this...
He thought of a living room in beige and blue, and realized with a little internal shift and slide that it was not Jordan's apartment that had come back with that warm little memory.
God, you know where I wish we could go back to? Our place. The place...
Face in a mirror, not the one he had now. The boy's face. 17 and innocent, across the usual clutter of bottles on the bathroom counter, getting ready for an evening. Tape flash, ominous and chaotic. The taste of oranges.
Before all this happened. That's useless, isn't it? I don't even want to be that boy. I only wish I was there, knowing what I know now.
It was good there, Grant said.
I was such a damned fool.
I don't think so. Justin shook his head. I know differently, Grant said. Put yourself in Ari's place. Wonder what you would have been on her timetable, with her advantages, with the things they did to her. You'd have been
different, harder, older.
Someone else entirely. CITs are such a dice throw. You're so unintentionally cruel to each other.
Do you think it's necessary? Can't we learn without putting our hand in the fire?
You're asking an Azzy, remember? I'm asking Anazi. Is there a way to get an Ariane Emery out of that gene set? Or me? Out of mine? Without the stress? Grant asked. Can flux states be achieved intellectually when they have endocrine bases? Can tape-fed stress, short of the actual chance of breaking one's neck, be less real, leave less pain, than the real experience? What if that tape Ari made were only tape? What if it had never happened, but you thought it had? Would there be a difference? What if Ari's maman had never died, but she thought she had? Would she be sane? Could she trust reality? I don't know. I truly don't know. I would hate to discover that everything until now was tape, and I was straight from town, having dreamed all this.
God, Grant.
Grant turned his left wrist to the light, where there was always, since the episode with Winfield and the abolitionists, a crosswise scar. This is real. Unless, of course, it's only something my makers installed with the tape.
That's not good for you.
Grant smiled. That's the first time in years you've called me down. Got you, have I?
Don't joke like that.
I have no trouble with reality. I know tape when I feel it. And remember, I'm built right side up, with my logic sets where they belong, thank you, my makers. But flux is too much like dreams. Tape-fed flux would have no logical structure. Tape-fed flux is too much like what Giraud did in the war, which I don't even like to contemplate. Building minds and unbuilding them. Building minds and unbuilding them. Mind-wiping and reconstruction. Always, always, mind you, with things the subject can't go back to check, and a lot left to the imagination. I honestly don't know, Justin. If there's a key to taping those experiences, Giraud could have had some insight into it. Isn't that the irony? Isn't that irony? They're referring, of course, to some of the stuff we observed in Down Below Station with, what's his name? The guy who turned out to be a subterfuge agent, and was the friend of the younger Constantine. I can't remember his name right now. That guy. Who undergoes brain wipe. I'm going to reread that paragraph because I stumbled a bit on important parts. Also, it's important. It's like a vital part of this. It describes an interesting part of the wartime setting. A weird little wrinkle.
Don't joke like that.
I have no trouble with reality. I know tape when I feel it. And remember, I'm built right side up, with my logic sets where they belong. Thank you, my makers. But flux is too much like dreams. Tape-fed flux would have no logical structure. Tape-fed flux is too much like what Giraud did in the war, which I don't even like to contemplate. Building minds and unbuilding them, mind-wiping and reconstruction. Always, always, mind you, with things the subject can't go back to check, and a lot left to the imagination. I honestly don't know, Justin. If there's a key to taping those experiences, Giraud could have some insight into it. Isn't that irony? Actually, you know what? I'm going to reread that one more time with all the punctuation mentioned. Because this is a classic CJ Cherryh conversation paragraph where you've got every part of the punctuation buffalo. What are those long double hyphens called? I used to know this. Why does my brain forget these things? She's got a ton of them in this. It's got such a simple name, too. Anyway. It's like a dead pause or something? I don't remember. I have no trouble with reality, period. I know tape when I feel it. No is italicized. I italicized no tape when I feel it, period. And remember, I'm built right side up, comma, with my logic sets where they belong, comma, thank you, comma, my makers, period. But flux is too much like dreams, period. Tape-fed flux, double hyphen, would have no logical structure, period. Tape-fed flux is too much like what Giraud did in the war, comma, which I don't even like to contemplate, double hyphen. Building minds and unbuilding them, semicolon. Mind wiping and reconstruction, ellipsis. Always, comma, mind you, comma, with things the subject can't go back to check, semicolon, and a lot left to the imagination, period. I honestly don't know, comma, Justin, period. If there's a key to taping those experiences, double hyphen, Giraud, italicized, could have had some insight into it, comma. Isn't that irony? Question mark. End quote. Good times. Thanks, CJ Cherryh. I mean that. Keeps us on our toes, and is able to get across a kind of vibrancy and stuttering organic quality to conversation and phrasing that you don't often get with a lot of other writers. And it doesn't feel hackneyed either. At least not to me. It made some vague, bizarre sense, enough to send another twitch down his back and a feeling of cold into his bones. Talking theory with Giraud. But Giraud was dead, and yet to be. It wasn't something we ever got around to. The question is, essentially, whether you can substitute tape for reality. I'm very capable, Justin, but I sweated blood on that flight to Planys. I was so damned helpless during the whole trip. That's what you give up. Survivability in the real world. Justin snorted. You think I don't worry. But you could learn much more rapidly. Back to the old difference. You flux learn, I logic my way through. And no aggregate of CITs is logical. Got you again. Justin thought about it, and smiled, finally, in the damnable gray apartment, in the elegant prison Ari appointed them. For a moment it felt like home. For a moment he remembered that it was safer than anywhere they had been since that fondly remembered first apartment. Then the apprehension came back again, the great stillness over Reseune, deserted halls, everything in flux. There was sudden break-up on the vid, the news commentary thrown off in mid-word. The infinite man appeared on screen. Music played. One never worried about such things. Someone kicked a cable, and Reseune's whole vid system glitched. Except it was also something Reseune Security did for select apartments. Selected viewers. My God, he thought, a sudden rush of worry, lifelong habit. Were they monitoring? Have they gotten through her security? What could they have heard? M-. Thank you. Thank you, J. Waldrop. It's an M-. That's the one. And the way it's formatted from the font in this is they are not two separate hyphens, but one big long one, so it is a definite M-. I apologize. Thank you. I'm not going to reread the thing with the M-dashes quoted accordingly. Know now that I know that they are called an M-. That I now know they are called an M-. I knew at one time, I forgot, I forgore. I appreciate it. 6. Uncle Dennis, Ari had relayed on the way, via Base 1 and Catlin's comm unit. I need to talk to you right away. Lab office, Seeley had relayed back. Shocked looks followed them through the labs from the time they had entered, techs who knew that things were already odd with Dennis, Azzy who were reading the techs if not the situation, and worried as hell, and now an unexplained break-in of conspicuous family coming straight from the funeral, in mourning, and headed for lab offices at high speed. Small wonder the whole lab stopped and stared, Ari thought, and at least she could freely admit to knowing as much as she knew, accepting what Planys was doing. Past the tanks, the techs, the very place where she had been born, where likely by now half a dozen Girauds were in progress, up the little stairs with the metal rail, to the small administrative office Dennis had commandeered. Seeley was evidently keeping a lookout through the one-way glass of the lab offices, because Seeley opened the door to let them in before she had made the final turn of the steps. Dennis was behind the desk, on the phone, with security, by what it sounded. Ari collected herself with a breath. "That's fine," she said when Catelyn whisked a chair to her back. She took off her gloves and her jacket, gave them to Catelyn, and sat down as Dennis hung up the phone. "Well, Sarah," Dennis said, "we have the result of your balking security at Planys." "Where is Jordan?" "Under arrest at Planys. He and his companion. Damn him!"
Justin is accounted for."
"Are you certain?"
"Quite. Justin is the one I want to talk to you about."
"Sir," Florian said when they had let him in, Florian in house uniform and without his coat, so Florian, and therefore probably Ari, had had time, Justin reckoned, to come in next door first. But it made him anxious that it was not a call over the minder, or a summons to Ari's apartment or her offices, just a minder call at the door, Florian asking entry. And the vid still showed nothing on the news. Wow, I just decided to blank out the rest of that sentence. And the vid still showed nothing on the news channel except that single logo. "There's been an incident," Florian said, preface, and in the half-second of Florian's next breath, "Oh God," Justin thought, "something's happened to Ari," and was bewildered in the same half-second that the fear included her welfare, which was linked with his own. "Your father," Florian said, and fears jolted altogether into another track, "has gotten a message to the centrists claiming innocence."
Of what?
Of what?" Justin asked, still tracking on incident, not making sense of it. "Of killing Dr. Emery, sir." He stood there, he did not know how long, in a state of shock, wanting to think,
But my God, during Giraud's funeral, what's he doing? What's going on?
"We don't know all the details yet," Florian said. "Sarah doesn't want to admit to Sir Dennis just how far her surveillance extends. Please understand that, sir. But she does know that your father is safe at the moment. She's asking you, please, sir, understand that there's extreme danger. To you, to her, to your father, no matter whether this is true or false. The announcement has political consequences that may be very dangerous. I don't know if I need explain them."
God, Ari's safety, everything.
He raked a hand through his hair, felt Grant's hand on his shoulder. Florian seemed older, somehow, his face utterly without the humor that was so characteristic of him, like a mask dropped, finally, time sent reeling.
Could it be true?
"She wants you to pack a small bag, sir. Sarah's interim staff is on the way up to this floor, and Sarah asks Grant to stay here and put himself under their orders."
Pack for where? Separate us? God, no.
Sarah wants you to go with her to Novgorod, to defuse this matter, to speak to the press. She wants to take the politics out of the question, for your father's sake as much as her own. Do you understand, sir? There'll be a small question and answer at Reseune Airport, that's safest. She's asking a meeting with Councillor Corraine and Secretary Lynch. She earnestly hopes you won't fail her in this.
My God, Grant. My God, Grant. What do I do?
But Grant had no answers. "CITs are all crazy," Grant would say.
Ari's out of her mind. Take me to Novgorod? They don't dare. They need me. That's the game. My father under arrest. They want me to call him a liar. Reseune Security doesn't need to kill him. They can use drugs. It takes time. Time I can buy them to operate on him. Would Ari do this to us? Would Florian be here without her orders? In front of those cameras, if I get that far, how can they stop me from any charges I can make? Grant, being here in Ari's keeping. That's what they're offering me. Grant's sanity, or my father's.
He looked up into Grant's face. Far calmer, he thought, than his own, Grant's unfluxed logic probably understanding there was no choice in his own situation. I have faith in my makers. Grant comes with me, he said to Florian. No, sir, Florian said. I have definite instructions. Please pack just the essentials. Everything will be inspected. Grant will be safe here with Sarah Amy. There will be security. Quentin A.Q. is very competent, and Sarah Amy will have her friends for help here. No way will any general security come onto this floor or interfere with the systems. No way will Sarah Amy do anything to harm Grant. A gifted 18-year-old with a thin, earnest face and a tendency to go at problems head-on. An 18-year-old who, he had always thought, liked him and Grant. Honest. And sensible enough, and sensible as an 18-year-old had any likelihood of being. God, they all were. It's a damn children's crusade, he said, and caught Grant's arm. Do what they say. It'll be all right. No, he said in front of the cameras, in the lounge at Reseune Airport. No, I haven't been in contact with my father. I hope to get a call through, when we get to Novgorod. It's the middle of their night. He tried, desperately, not to look nervous. Don't look guilty, Ari had said before they left the bus. Don't look like you're hiding anything. You can be very frank with them, but for God's sake, think about the political ramifications when you do it. Be very careful about making charges of your own. They can only muddy things up, and we have to rely on Uncle Dennis. We can't offend him, hear me? My father is in detention at the moment, he said, finding the pace of things too much, the dark areas too extensive. The truth seemed easier to sort out than lies were, if one kept it to a minimum. All I can tell you... No. Can meant dangerous things. All I know how to tell you is that there's an inquiry. My father told me, at the time it happened, exactly what he told the council. But there were things going on at the time that might have been a reason. That's why I'm going to Novgorod. I don't know, Ari herself doesn't know, who's telling the truth now. I want to find out. Reseune administration wants to find out. I can assure you, Ari said beside him, I have a very strong motive for wanting to know the truth in this case. Question for Dr. Warrick. Are you presently under any coercion? No, Justin said firmly. You are a PR. Are you, in any way, more than that? He shook his head. Standard PR, nothing extraordinary. Have you ever been subject to intervention? He had not expected that question. He froze on it, then said, Psych probe is an intervention. I was part of the investigation. There were a lot of them. They would question his sanity for that reason, and his reliability. He knew that. It would cast doubt on his license for clinical practice and cast a shadow on his research. He knew that, too. The whole thing took on a nightmarish quality, the lights, the half-ring of reporters. He became quite placid, quite cold. There was an illicit intervention when I was a minor. I've been treated for that. I'm not presently under drugs. I'm not operating under anyone's intervention. I'm concerned about my father, and I'm anxious to get to Novgorod and answer whatever questions council may have. I'm most concerned about my father's welfare. Is he threatened in any way? Sir, I don't know as much as you do. I'm anxious to talk with him. For one thing, I want to be sure what he did say. You're casting doubt on his statement through Councillor Corraine as valid or as coming from him. I want to be sure that he did send that message. I want to hear it from him. There are a lot of unanswered questions. I can't tell you what you want to know. I don't know. Sarah Emery, do you know? I have ideas, Ari said, but I'm being very careful of them. They involve people's reputations. Living people? Living and dead. Please understand, we're in the middle of a funeral. We've had charges launched and questions asked that depend on records deep in archive, about things that are personal to me and personal to Justin. She reached and laid her hand on his, clenched it. We had to come to our own peace with what happened.
Justin's my friend and my teacher, and now we wonder what did happen all those years ago, and why Justin's father wouldn't have told him the truth if there was more to it. We don't understand, either one of us. That's why we're going outside Reseune. We're going to handle this at the Bureau level. At Council level, since they're the ones who did the first investigation, if we have to go that far. But it's not appropriate for us to investigate this on a strictly internal level. Dr. Warrick has made charges. They need to be heard in the Bureau. That's where we're going. And I think we ought to get underway, Cherryh, thank you. Please, we'll have more statements later.
Dr. Warrick, a journalist shouted. Do you have any statement? Justin looked at the man, blank for a fraction of a second until he realized that Dr. Warrick was the way the world knew him.
Not at the moment. I've told you everything I know.
Florian touched him as he got up, showed him a route through to the boarding area for the plane that waited for them. Reseune 1. A solid phalanx of regular security made a passage for them, an abundance of security that clearly said, "This is official. Administration is involved." It answered to Ari. Giraud was a wisp of ash and a group of cells trying to achieve humanity, and meanwhile Ariane Emery was in charge, with all the panoply of Reseune's authority around her. He went quickly through the doors, and down the corridor onto the safeway and into the plane, where he stopped in confusion, until Florian took him by the arm and guided him to one of a group of leather seats and settled him in. "Would you like a drink, sir?" "Soft drink," he said, while Ari was settling in opposite him, while the plane was starting engines and more security was boarding. "Vodka and orange," Ari said. "Thank you, Florian." And looking straight at him, "Thank you," she said. "You handled that very well." "You handled that very well." He gazed back at her in a virtual state of shock, thoughts darting in panic to the security around him, the fear that one of them could simply pull a gun and spray the cabin, fear for Grant back in the apartment, that, no matter what Florian had said about general security not having admittance to that level, an 18-year-old girl was in charge, along with a security guard no older than she was, and anything could happen. Fear that something might be happening with Jordan, or that Paxer lunatics might somehow have rigged a missile that could take the plane out of the sky. There was not a damned thing he could do, except say what he was supposed to say, trust. God, that was the hard part. Let go all the defenses, do whatever Ari told him, and hope that another 18-year-old knew better than he did how to handle the situation.
"I was 17. He said to Ari, quietly, while the engines were warming up, "when I thought I knew what I was doing well enough to send Grant to Kruger's. You knew what that came to. You know what that came to."
Ari snapped her seat buckle across and reached up to take the drink Catelyn handed her.
"Warning taken, I know. But sometimes there aren't any easy choices. But sometimes there aren't any choices, are there?"
"7. Reseune 1 made cruising altitude, and Ari took a sip of her drink and checked the small unit she had clipped to her chair arm, remote for the more complex electronics in the briefcase in its safety rack behind her Okay, we'll just take it from the top. "7. Reseune 1 made cruising altitude, and Ari took a sip of her drink and checked the small unit she had clipped to her chair arm, remote for the more complex electronics in the briefcase in its safety rack beside her seat, the first time she had ever carried it. She pushed the check button. It flashed a reassuring positive and beeped at her. System up. Link functioning. Across from her, in his seat beside Justin, Florian nodded to her smile and nod at him. Florian had done the updating into the code system. Of course it worked, and worked, so long as she made no queries, as a very thorough observer in Reseune's state-of-the-art net, simply picking up on all her flagged items and routing them to her as they came up in the flow. Not even defense had cracked that code upon code, jargon-esque flow Reseune Security used. One hoped. Ari picked up her drink again and leaned back. "Everything's all right," she said to Justin. "No troubles we don't know about, and we're picking up our bureau escort in about 5 minutes." Justin looked from the window at his right toward her, truly looked at her, eye to eye across the low table that divided the seats. He had darted glances toward every movement in the plane, tense as Florian or Catelyn when they were on. He was tracking even on the working of the plane's hydraulics, and the light from the window touched taut muscle in his jaw, mature lines of worry set into his brow and around his mouth. The years had touched him, no matter the rejuve. He worries so much, she thought. He's too smart to trust anyone. Certainly not Reseune. Now, not even his father. He'll doubt Grant himself if he's gone too long. That's what he's trying to figure out. Trying to estimate where I am in this, and whether Grant is safe, and how much I'm a young fool, and how much I've got him fluxed, and how much he can believe now of anything I say or do. I'm not the kid he knew. He's begun to figure that, and he's started to wonder when it happened, and how far it's gone, and who was working on him while he was under Cat. He's scared, and embarrassed about being scared of me, but he knows he has every right to be afraid now. The brain has to rule the flux, Ari Elder. I think I've finally understood what you mean. Whether he slept with me or not, I'd have come round to this. I do think I would. You didn't bring up a fool, Ari Elder. Neither did Mama or my uncles. Ollie doesn't write because he values his neck. That's the truth. This universe is dangerous, and Ollie's just as upset as Grant is back there, alone with strangers. He's trusted nothing since Mama died. He works for Reseune administration. We can talk now, she said, with a slide of her eyes toward the rear of the plane where the regular security people sat. The engine noise was as good as any silencer, given that security did not have any unreported electronics back there. But the carry bag at Florian's feet had its own array of devices, which one had to trust was up to what Florian vowed it was, and Florian's base 1 clearance was quite adequate for him to find out whether it was up to date. An explanation would do, Justin said. What are you doing? I'd be ever so happy if I knew. I'm not choosing the timing on this. I'm afraid Councillor Corraine is, and it's not like him. I'm afraid the information has gotten to someone else, like Khalid, and he had to jump fast to be first. Which is why it came out in the middle of the funeral, not tonight. Justin looked taken off his balance. You know about things like that. I'm sure I don't. You know, Justin, you know damn well. You just haven't had Uncle Giraud's briefings, and it still caught us. Giraud knew there was a leak. He knew what your father would say. He warned me what your father would say if he got the chance. If he got a chance. The question isn't even whether it's true. Let's assume it is. He was going to slip her. She saw it coming, and she maintained his attention with an uplifted finger. Exactly Ari Sr.'s mannerism. She knew it. What does it do for your father? It gets him the hell out of Planys. It gets him clean, damn it. It gets him his standing with the Bureau. All of which I'm not averse to, in my own time. My own time isn't now. It can't be now. Think about it, Justin. You can handle sociology equations. Try this one. Try this one near term, like the next few years. Tell me what's going to happen and what's going to result from it. That's first. That's the thing that matters. What does it do to him? What's going to happen? What does it do to him? What's going to happen? Gosh, what a confusing phrase. I believe I got the emphasis right on that. What does it do to him? What's going to happen? Second question. Where does he stand? Where does he think he stands? What side has he just taken? And don't tell me your father's naive. No one in Reseune is naive, just underbriefed. He said nothing. But he was thinking, deep and seriously, on what she had said, and around the peripheries. Who am I dealing with? What is she up to? Has Dennis choreographed this business? He was much too smart to take anything at one level. Did you leak it to Coraine? He asked. Oh, that was a good one. It jolted a thought loose. I didn't. But, God, Dennis might have, mightn't he? Or Giraud, Justin said. She drew a long breath and leaned back. Interesting thought. Very interesting thought. Maybe it's the truth. Maybe whoever leaked it is in a position to know it's the truth. Florian was interested. Florian was watching Justin with utmost attention. She reckoned Catelyn was. God, Ari thought, and found herself smiling. He's not down, is he? I see how he's survived. Easier to answer that, she said, if I had an idea what happened at that night, but there's no evidence. I thought there might have been a scriber record. There was just the translate. There's nothing there. The sniffers were useless. There'd been too many people in and out before they thought about it. Sight probe would have been the only way, and that didn't happen, and won't. It doesn't matter. Giraud talked about the Warrick influence. Giraud made an enemy. Now what do we do about that enemy? A slower man, an emotional man, would have blurted out, "Let him go." She sat watching Justin think, relatively sure some of the tracks. The fact that Jordan's name was in Paxer graffiti, that Jordan's ideas had opposed her predecessor, that there was one election shaping up in science and another virtually certain in defense, both critical, both of which, if the centrists won, could destroy Reseune, shift the course of history, jeopardize all Reseune's projects and all her purposes. Perhaps 3-4 minutes he sat there, deep-focused and calm as Cat could have sent him. Then, with careful control, "Have you run the projections of Jordan's input?" She drew breath, as if one of a dozen knots about her chest had loosed. Loosed or loosened? Loosed. It was a page flip, so I had to flip very fast. There is an echo, she thought, imagining that dark place, that floating-in null place. She took her own time answering. "Field too large," she said finally. "I don't aim at him. I want him safe. The problem is, he's quite intelligent, quite determined, and even if he didn't leak that message, what's he going to do if he gets in front of the news cameras? What's he going to do to every plan for solving this that I could have come up with? I can solve it. Give me 15 minutes on the phone with him. There's still a problem. He won't believe a word of it. Giraud said it. That tape was an intervention. Your father saw it." He reacted to that as if it had hit him in the gut. "You haven't," she said, "have you? Ever? You don't know what Ari did. You should have asked to see it. You should have gone over that damned thing as often as it took. It fluxed me, too. Fluxed me so I wasn't thinking straight. It took Giraud to point out the obvious. If I could see what Ari did, so could your father. Your father didn't see it as a 17-year-old kid. Your father saw it as a psych surgeon who had to wonder exactly how often and how deep Ari's interventions had been. He had to wonder how far they'd gone. You and Grant worry about each other when you've been separate 3 days. I know. You know they can't run an intervention on Jordan, but don't you think he has to wonder, after 20 years, just whose you are? Justin leaned forward and picked up his drink from the table, breathing harder. She marked the flare of his nostrils, the intakes and the quick outflow, and the little body moves that said he wanted out of that round. "Florian," he said, "would you mind terribly? I think I'd like something stronger." She could read Florian, too, instant suspicion. Florian distrusted such little distracting tactics, with thoughts engendered of lifelong training. He was not about to turn his back on an enemy. "Florian," she said, "his usual." Florian met her eyes, nodded deferentially then, and got up, not even looking at Catelyn, who sat beside her. There was no question that Catelyn was on, and hair triggered. "You can talk to your father," she said to Justin, "but I doubt he's believed you entirely for years. Not entirely. He knows you were psych-probed over and over again, and he doesn't believe in Reseune's virtue. If you try to reason with him, I'm afraid what he's going to think, do you see? And I'm not just saying that to get at you, Justin. I'm afraid what he's going to think, and I don't think you can do anything to stop him, not with reason." "You forgot one thing," he said, leaning back against his seat. "What's that?" "The same thing that keeps Grant and me alive. That past a certain point, you don't care. Past a certain point—" He shook his head and looked up as Florian brought the drink back. "Thank you." "No problem, sir." Florian sat down. "If he gets into public—" Ari took up the thread of thought. "He can do himself harm. He can do me harm, of course, which I don't want. It's possible that your father has been psychologically very isolate for a very long time. Insular and insulated from all the problems going on in the world. If he was protecting you against the release of that tape, which may be a real motive for him lying until now, he evidently believes you're capable of handling it, or he's been told something by someone that makes him desperate enough to risk you as well as himself. If that message actually came from him, which is a question, but it doesn't really matter. What he'll do, that matters. And we have an image problem in all this mess, you understand me?" One sec. Twitchbots being Twitchbots. AI viewers at streamgoblankyourself.blank.
Banished to the nether realms. The ether to you.
Where are you? And we have an image problem in all this mess, you understand me? Justin was understanding her. She thought so by the little motions of his eyes, the tensions in his face. "What is there to do?" he said. "You've left Grant back there. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know what they're doing to my father at Planys." "Nothing. They're not going to do anything to him." "Can you guarantee that?" She hesitated a while over the answer. "That depends," she said. "That very much depends. That's why you're with me." "Someone has to do something. I'd wanted to be inconspicuous for a while more, but I'm the only face the media knows, and I'm the only one who has enough credit with them to patch this mess up. But I need you. I need your help. Possibly you'll double on me. I don't know. But whether it's true or false what they're saying, it's going to be terribly hard for your father to handle this, or to back away from the cameras if he gets the chance. You're my hope of stopping that." Another small silence. Then, "How did you get Dennis's permission for this move?" "The same way I've gotten you into my residency. I told Dennis you're mine, that I ran a major intervention, that Grant is far more of a hold on you than your father is, that you'd choose him over your father if it came to a choice, because your father can take care of himself, while Grant—" She shrugged. "That kind of thing. Dennis believes it." That got through to him, just about enough threat to make sure he understood. Justin sat there staring at her, mad, very mad, and very worried. "You're quite an operator, young Sarah." The compliment made her smile, though sadly. "Giraud died too soon. The Paxers aren't going to sit still in all this commotion. The elections are going to be chaos. There may be more bombings, more people dead. The whole thing is going to blow wide if we don't head it off. You know all that. Your work is exactly in my field. That's one thing at stake. So you can put your father in a position where he has to do something desperate and put himself out front of something he can't control, and I don't think he has any idea it exists. Or you can help me defuse this, calm him down and let me run a little game with Dennis. Put your father wise to it if you can, I don't mind. Encourage your father to wait until I do run Reseune. We can double-team Dennis, or you can blow everything to hell with the news services, by asking to get your father in front of the cameras, by doing things that make you look like you're under duress. The truth, you mean? or by doing things that give you a bad image. You can't look like a traitor to your own father. You're very good with bright people and design systems, but you don't know where the traps are. You're not current with the outside world. You're not used to the press, and you're not used to picking up on your own public image. For God's sake, take advice and be careful. If you get stubborn about this, you can lose every leverage you've got." He stared at her a long time and sipped his whiskey. "Tell me," he said, finally, "exactly what sort of thing I should watch out for." Grant watched, entranced by the precision, as the cards crackled into a precise shuffle in the girl's fingers. "That's amazing," he said. "This?" Sarah Amy looked pleased and did it again. My mother taught me, God, I guess from the time my fingers were big enough." She shot a series of cards to her and to him. Quentin A.Q. was the silent presence in the room, a tall, well-built young man in security uniform, who sat and watched. A young man altogether capable of breaking a neck in a score of different ways. Grant had no illusions about his chances if he made a move crosswise of Amy Carnath. He had looked to spend the time confined to his room at best, and under trank or under restraint at worst. But young Cherryh had instead made every attempt to reassure him. "It won't take long. They'll meet with the Bureau. I don't doubt they'll have everything straightened out in a couple of days." And she had finally, after a mid-afternoon lunch, declared that she would teach him to play cards. He was touched and amused. Young Amy was taking her recently acquired alpha license very seriously, and doing outstandingly well. The game did keep his mind off what, if he were half-tranked and locked in solitude, would have been absolute hell. A situation which was still hell, what time he's let himself worry about whether the plane had landed yet, whether Justin was safe, what was going on with Jordan and Planys. He wished he were on that plane, but he figured he was actually doing more good for Justin as a hostage, being civil and cool-headed and not pouring fuel on the fires of juvenile excitement, or administration paranoia. Poker was also an interesting game, in which Amy said an Aussie had two considerable advantages. First, profound concentration, and second, the ability to conceal one's reactions. Cherryh was right. He very much wanted to try it with Justin. When Justin got home. It was the little thoughts like that that sent panic rushing through him, with the thought that something could happen, that somehow an order could come through that Cherryh Amy could not resist, or that authorities elsewhere could take Justin into custody, and, Reseune holding his contract, they might not meet again. Ever. Then he might not sit placidly waiting for retraining. Then he might do something incredibly unlikely for an Aussie designer and get his hands on a weapon. In a very fluxed way, it seemed what a CIT might do and what was the best thing to do. At other moments, he was fluxing that wildly. He knew that his own personal CIT might fight to be free, but he would never turn a weapon on Cherryh Amy, nor on Quentin A.Q., and that Justin could never, he had told the truth to Sir Dennis, never harm any of the people who had harmed him. His CIT might threaten with a weapon, but pull the trigger, Justin could not even if it was Giraud, who was dead anyway. No, when it came to it, Grant thought, studying the hand young Cherryh had dealt him, he could... What a great multi-layered turn of phrase that is. Ah! The hand being dealt. Which Cherryh are we talking about? Sorry. No, when it came to it, Grant thought, studying the hand young Cherryh had dealt him, he could not see himself surrendering to the hospital, but he could not see himself shooting to kill either. Young Amy told him that the secret of the game she was teaching him was to keep one's intentions and one's predicaments off one's face. Young Amy was very intelligent, and quite good at it herself, for a CIT. Possibly she was playing more than one game and trying to read more than what cards he held, the same way he was trying to read her for more information than she was willing to give. So meanwhile he gambled for small markers because one was supposed to play for money, but he owned none that was not Justin's, and he would not risk that, even at the minuscule levels young Amy proposed. He risked nothing that was Justin's, was very glad to have enough liberty in the apartment to know that Justin's papers were safe, and generally to catch what bits of information he could. Dumb Annie was a role he still knew how to play. "I'll be all right," Justin had said to him. And after all was said and done, he had to rely on that, like any Azzy, while he kept fluxing on Winfield and the abolitionists, and the fact that at 37 he was legally a minor, and Amy Carnath at 18 was legally an adult. "Damn it," he wanted to shout at her, "take advice. Tell me what's going on and listen to someone with more experience than you have." But that was not likely to happen. Amy Carnath took Ari Emery's orders, and whether it was Dennis Nye or Ari Emery managing things now, he could not at all figure. And that is where we will leave it for today, and indeed this week. I can actually say that and be right for once. We will finish this next time. Because I do not have another 2 hours, unfortunately. So we'll do this the next time we meet, which I believe is next Tuesday. One worse, Jay Waldrop. I'll send the AI to Hoboken. Get out of here. Be banished to Hoboken. I have no personal beef with Hoboken, but if it wants to start a beef with me, they are welcome to do so. I will run. I will run fast and far to another location. I won't start beef with Detroit. They have enough trouble. Deindustrialization has been a real killer. Let's put it that way. Thanks, NAFTA. You were great. The decline was long before NAFTA. It's fine. Let's see. It's just deindustrialization in general. We could do a whole lengthy screed on that. I've got a couple interesting books on that that have been written over the years. I might do one of them. I'm more likely to do some of my older history books, though, or history about older things. One I do want to get around to. I should probably stop doing the hard record. There we go. What I want to get around to is a book called Imperfect Union, which is about one John Fremont and his wife, more particularly his wife, whose name I just forgot. Jane... Now I have to grab the book. Give me a sec. Jesse and John Fremont. Jesse what? Jesse Benton. Jesse Benton Fremont. There we go. It's pretty fascinating. It's kind of a book about. So it's a book kind of about manufactured celebrity, if you will. It's pretty fascinating stuff, and also very well written in a way. It's there's not exactly a narrative, but it is okay. The author has a bit of a bent. He's clearly enjoys writing about these people. So it's but he does a good job of fleshing it out, making it interesting. It does not necessarily make John Fremont look too good, to be honest. But I think he knows that. I think he kind of upplays some of the positive aspects of John Fremont and doesn't exactly downplay the negatives, but they are definitely there. But it's pretty interesting stuff. If anything, the book gives tons of credit to Jesse Benton Fremont, though, as being kind of this, kind of wrangling his reputation behind the scenes, and kind of just generally being a very smart cookie in her own right. Admittedly, it helped that she came from both wealth and political power. So it's pretty fascinating stuff. I do want to read that on stream at some point. I think it's really good. I'd also kind of like to read Justice at Tokyo, but that one's a monster.
That's a monster and a tremendous bummer too. Like it is a depressing book to read. Basically, it's dealing with the Tokyo trials, which were America's version of the Nuremberg trials, but in Japan, and how those go. That one hops around a bunch in the timeline. It's very good about telling you when it's doing that. I wouldn't say it's as much of a narrative book as Imperfect Union is, but it's pretty good. Very, very informative. There's a bunch of stuff in there that I did not know. Also kind of discusses how the way that trial was handled, how that kind of shapes geopolitics in the Asia-Pacific region pretty much going forward. Very, very fascinating stuff. Anyway, I do want to do some nonfiction on here at some point. Because why not? I've got some, and some of it's quite good. So, as far as what book I'm going to do next after Cyteen, why not? I'll tell you. I'm going to do... what's the author's name? Shoot, I need to grab it now. There we go. It is called, appropriately enough, Flux. It's by Jinwoo Chong, and it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's very much a character study novel. It is nominally science fictional, but I barely would consider it that. It's theoretically a sci-fi novel, but that doesn't really kick in until very late in the game, so I wouldn't worry about it. Just think of it as a interesting character study or whatever. There's a lot to... There's so much to unpack in this book. There's a lot to unpack there. So I'm looking forward to doing that one. I will say as little about it as humanly possible. Do not read a summary of it online. Do not read the back of the book. It will spoil the plot. So don't do it, is what I'm saying. It will spoil a major thing that happens late in the game, and you don't want that. I wish I had not known, because it recontextualizes literally everything, and you're like, oh, if I'd not known that, this book would have been a lot better. This book would have been kind of... I mean, I don't know if I would have gotten through it, but I would have been like, oh, that's wild. Didn't see that coming. And truly, I would not have. I think even then there's room for debate on what goes on, but it's good. I would not be conceding to... I would not be saying I would read it if it weren't. It's not nearly as long as Cyteen is, but it's long enough. It's not as dense, which is good, which will help. It clocks in at, 300-something pages? Yeah, like 337. But again, it's a lot less dense, so it's like, we'll be doing 50-page chunks, no problem. Whereas Cyteen, the 95 edition that I'm reading from, I'm pretty sure this is the 95 edition, I've looked this up repeatedly, I should know. Cyteen is 680 pages, which sounds like, oh, it's only double. No. No, my friends. It is formatted much tighter. There are many more lines per page. The pages are bigger. Okay, so let's give you a perspective. How many lines are in a page? One page. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46-ish. I may have miscounted by 1 or 2. Call it 46, 45. Flux is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. Almost half. A little more than half. Actually, almost exactly half. Also, the word density per line is significantly more. You can fit... this will take me a little longer to calc. how many characters in a line on Cyteen? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 20. You know what? It'd be a lot easier for me to just count this out. To type this out. Give me a sec. Give me a sec. It would be faster to type this out. Have any kid if their mothers know, comma, space, they are going to object, comma, space, because they, which is home. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I discounted already. 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70. 70, 1, 2, 3, 4, call it 5. 75 on a line. Whereas Flux has less than that. Let me find a full line here. Thing like that, comma. And it was staring me in the face. Period space. I missed Gil, period. Alright, so if we're generous... Actually, the line lengths are pretty close. I take it back. I take it back, even though the font is somewhat larger. Which is interesting. The formatting... Anyway, so, to give you something a bit more precise, I don't have a measuring implement on me, but the margins on Flux are like 1 inch on either side. On all sides, really. It's about 1 inch. Whereas Cyteen's is, I don't know, like 1 centimeter on the outside and inside border, and maybe 1 inch on the top and bottom, if that. Less than 1 inch on the bottom, maybe 1 inch on the top. So, when I say that Cyteen's text is literally dense, I am not kidding. It is literally very dense just due to formatting. Like, it's got formatting commensurate with a, like, dime store novel that's like, what, I say dime store novel, but like I'm holding I say holding. I'm holding a book here right now, Pyramid Scheme by Eric Flint, that's about 1 inch wide, or 1 inch thick, about, and even that doesn't have text font that's that low, but the formatting is close. Space between lines is microscopic. It's about 1, 2, 3 inches, say, 3 inches wide. Call it 5 inches tall, 3 by 5. It's like it's got formatting like that, but if you expanded it to be on much like pages that are, Jesus, I don't know, half again the size. It's crazy. It's very dense. There's a lot going on. But it's also 3 books smushed into one. Anyway, that's enough yapping out of me. I will see you all next Tuesday. Again, if you are looking for any of the stuff that I have had to delist off my channel for any reason, just about all of it is going to be on the Discord in a pinned link somewhere. Maybe I should put those in announcements instead. I don't know. I should probably do that, yes. I'll do that. I'll get those in announcements so that there's an obvious place for them. Or just a pins channel? I don't know. Anyway. Anything new? Nope. Nope. Okie doke. I'll see you all later. Thanks again to everyone who tuned in. Appreciate you. if you're listening to this in the future, I appreciate you too. Believe it or not. I don't make money off this, for the record. To be very clear. Which is kind of what getting, when somebody's going and being like a copyright vulture and jumping down my throat, I find that kind of frustrating, because I'm like, I'm not making money off this, you know? Like, you can shut down the channel. It doesn't benefit me. It doesn't hurt me economically at all. So if your goal was to hold me ransom, it did not work. I'll just make a new one. I'll just make another one. You can't stop me. Do they have an IP range ban? I'll use a friggin' VPN. Fight me. I'll change my modem. I'll never die. And I'll keep doing this. I don't care. It's a fun hobby. I enjoy the hell out of it. I wouldn't do it if I didn't. Anyway. Stay safe, stay sane, be decent to each other. I think we did that already, and I will see you all later. Toodaloo!